Hi, welcome back. In this module, we're going to be talking about setting goals. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about why we set goals, especially family goals. So we just finished up the core value exercise, and that's awesome that we know what our core values and our family values are. That really says who we are in the world, and it really kind of binds us together in this place of showing up authentically and intentionally in our truth. But we set goals because those are actually how we breathe life into our core values. If one of our core values is, full living or adventurous living or, kind of living on the edge and just, being super full in life, taking chances, taking risks, living large. If that's a core value for our family, we would set a goal that honors that part of us. And a goal would then recognize, okay, we are going to set a goal that allows us to breathe life into our core value, and the goal will actually lead us somewhere that's full of adventure. It would be full of life. It would be, bigger than our better experiences. So setting the right kind of goals makes all the difference. And I want to say, we set goals all the time, right? We set personal goals and professional goals. And one of the top reasons why goals don't get met, we don't actually reach our goals, is because we didn't really believe in it in the first place. We didn't really want the goal, because when the rubber hits the road and you have to put in the time and energy and money and mental space and all of the work and all of the energy required to reach the goal, if it isn't worth it, you're not going to reach the goal and you're going to just toss in the towel early, right? So it is magical and very important to set goals that matter, right? Set goals that matter to you personally and for your whole family. Now, just a word on that, you can have personal goals. You can want to run a marathon, or you could want to climb the 7 highest peaks in the world, or you could set a goal that you want to learn Italian, but it doesn't mean everyone in your family wants that, right? In actual fact, they might not want those goals. So this is when we think about the family concept, the family garden concept again, in that you might take your love of language or your love of, marathon running and put that in your individual garden. But in this module, we want to talk about setting family goals, that everybody comes together in support of a thing. And obviously we, have many, many goals for our families, but what are the ones that we all can contribute to? Because if a family goal is to, hold a 90th birthday party for your mom in 2 years, is that really a goal for your children? Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. So family goals take family conversation. And setting goals that matter need to matter to everyone. Now, if this is their favorite great grandma, and everybody's on board and everybody wants to contribute, yeah, maybe they do some decorations, or maybe, they edit a video together of all of the family wishing a happy birthday, right? So yeah, they can contribute in some ways, but there is buy-in, right? A family goal cannot be something, told to everyone else and ordered them online and, get over here and get on board with my idea. It's not going to pass. You're not going to reach it. And if you do, it's going to be winter all the way. So to stay in summer in your family goals, it's really critical to pick goals that everybody's excited about. And when you're starting out, pick something small, right? Don't start off with, we're going to go to Disney World, and save $10,000. Like, that's a pretty huge goal. So I would say when you're setting a family goal, have something small and easy to, to chop up into little bits, and easy to go through the process and easy to reach the goal. Because the lessons at the beginning are how to set a goal and then how to actually reach them. The goal is secondary. When we're teaching our kids about goal setting as a life skill, we want them to achieve it, right? We want them to know what it feels like to go through the process, to bump up against things, to solve things, to overcome obstacles, and then to achieve the goal. Because then they think, okay, wait a minute, now maybe I can set a goal, to make my school play or make my school soccer team, or maybe I can set personal goals now that I see what it takes, right? So it really is a life lesson. But when we talk in this module about setting a family goal, we're actually going to set a goal. So when you think about goals for your family, I want you to take this sheet in the workbook and really brainstorm all kinds of goals and ask your kids input. Like, what would you like our family to do? What would be a goal that you want us to achieve? Because they might have ideas that aren't necessarily things you would have thought of, but you think, wow, that is a great goal. You know, sometimes children might say, I want to bike, fully around the lake by our house. And you just think, I would have never thought of that as a goal. That is a great goal. So we slowly do more and more miles every weekend until the end of summer, when we're able to circumnavigate, the whole 50-mile path or whatever it is. So ask your kids and brainstorm out all the ideas that they have. And then on this slide, you're going to see that when you have all of your goals listed, I want you to pick one. When you pick one goal, we're able to go through this exercise. You can always come back and go through this exercise with any of the goals that you have. But let's just pick one right now, a family goal that everybody's on board with. And I want you to go through this process. So you have your one goal selected. What would that look like for you to reach that goal? Why does that goal matter? Again, if it doesn't really matter, you're not going to want to do what it takes to reach the goal. So understanding why it matters is really important. The next thing I want you to think about are, what are some of the foreseeable obstacles, right? What are the things that you already know might pop up? Like, for example, in the bike riding one, maybe everyone doesn't have a bike, right? So, okay, a foreseeable obstacle is we have 3 children and we have 2 bikes for them. So we are short a bike. So we need to solve that. And, how can you solve it is in the next category. Like, what are the resources that you have? How can you solve some of the things that you know about? Now, there might be things that come up. Your daughter might, goodness gracious, sprain her ankle in 2 weeks, and she needs to take a couple of weeks of not biking, right? And I hope that does not happen, but that's unforeseeable, right? And in that case, obviously, everything changes. The goal gets pushed out or modified or, whatever. There are things around that. But when you have a foreseeable obstacle, what are the things that you have in your power to solve? You can ask friends to borrow a bike. You can, go on Craigslist or go on Facebook Marketplace and see if you can pick up something. You can fix one of the bikes in your garage that actually is kind of okay but needs a little repair, right? So you can invest a few dollars or a few hours into getting a bike that isn't quite up to speed, right? So what are the resources you have? You can go online and watch YouTube videos and figure out how to fix things so you don't have to put it in the bike shop, for example. So list all the things that you can tap into to reach your goal. Is it a monetary block? Okay, so how can you either raise more money or cut back on spending to generate more money to put towards your goal? Is it a time block? Okay, then we prioritize and we set goals and set our priorities to make sure that we eliminate all the extra fluff, right? So if you're doing things in your life that you don't want to do and you don't even like doing and you have no investment in doing, we might be able to stop doing those things and put your energy towards the goal that you actually want. And you need to check if your goal is SMART. So I know if you are in corporate America or you have gone through any kind of productivity training, you will know about SMART goals. SMART goals still are the gold standard in making sure that you are setting goals and thinking through all the contingencies. Because it's one thing to say, we're gonna get a dog, right? And your kids are like, we're getting a dog. Are we getting a dog today? I don't know. Are we getting a dog tomorrow? Next week? Next month? Like, what kind of dog? When are we getting the dog? Where will the dog sleep? What are we gonna do? How is it gonna... And you're like, yeah, I don't know anything about any of those things. they're gonna feel pretty deflated. So SMART goals allow us to really get into the details of what the goal is and what we believe it to be for our journey. So here on this slide, we have the SMART goals. So S stands for specific. Is your goal specific? Who is involved? What do I want to accomplish? Where will it be done? Why does this matter? As specific as you can. M is measurable. So this is how you set up tracking to find out how much is required, how many times, how will I know when I reach my goal, how much money is going to be involved, how much time is involved. Is your goal achievable? And be realistic, right? Is the goal within my resources and capabilities at this time and at the level I'm happy with? So it's one thing that your child wants to, take a road trip across the country, but it might not be the time for that. It might not be realistic. When I'm filming this, we are in quarantine in the COVID-19 virus time. If my kids said, Mom, we want to take a road trip to New York from Seattle, it would be like, we aren't even going to the next neighborhood, let alone New York City, right? It is not the time and place for this. So it is not achievable. We would have to do something different. Now, that's not to say that you have to just squash their goals. If it is not achievable as the way they want it or as the way it would be desired, you could actually change it. So in my case, for example, if my kid said, Mom, let's go to New York City in the middle of COVID, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen, true, but we can make some famous New York dishes, right? And we can watch YouTube videos or we can find, recipes online about famous New York recipes. And then we can look at, some Broadway shows. Hamilton just came out on Disney Plus. Perhaps we watch Hamilton and pretend we're in New York City watching this play on Broadway. Or maybe we take a virtual tour of one of the museums there. Maybe we go to Google Earth and, do a drone flyover of Central Park. Maybe we look at some artists or some singers or some dancers that come from New York. So there are ways to morph the goal if it isn't achievable. But it is important to make sure that the goal that you set on, you can actually do and you're willing to do. Is your goal relevant? So it needs to be worthwhile and it needs to fit both your short-term and your long-term objectives for your family. So if your child, if your family goal is, using the Disney World example. So we are going to take a massive trip. It will cost us $5,000 to fly everyone across the country to get a hotel, food, park passes, all of that, and it will take us 6 years. Right? So say that's the timeline. Well, in 6 years, my children will be in college, right? And moved out. So it no longer is relevant. So we need to just kind of morph that a little bit and say, yeah, actually, maybe that's not the best family goal because reaching that goal is not going to be relevant when we can actually reach it. So we need to change that a little bit. And the T stands for timely. So you need to set an end date. So a goal to be really something that fires people up and gets people really motivated to meet it needs to have an end date. If you just say, I want to do X, and it goes on and on and on and on and on, at some point, there's going to be disinterest. At some point, there's going to be massive demotivation, right? They're not going to be plugged into the process. And so you want to set milestones and a timeline that's a little bit quicker, right? So even if you have a massive goal like going to Disney World in 6 years, you want to chop that up a little bit and say, okay, in 6 months, we are going to have saved this money. We're going to watch these 5 Disney movies. We're going to make, these crafts to celebrate, what it's going to look like. We're going to sew, capes to feel like, a Prince Charming or something. So you need to set milestones and deadlines on those milestones because sometimes a really long-term goal is just too far away and people just don't stay connected to the goal and they lose interest. So when you have a SMART goal, it really is an opportunity to not only support the values that you say you have, but also to breathe life in them. And so when your goal and your value come together, it is this perfect moment of summer explosion. You know, it is like the 4th of July fireworks, that everything is just aligned and you're like, this is amazing, right? We work towards this goal. We might have sacrificed things. We worked together, we cooperated, we brainstormed, we solved problems, and we reached our goal, and we are celebrating because it brought us happiness. And that is magical. So I hope that you're able to find a very small goal to start with your children and work through the process of breaking it down into steps. What are the 5 steps we need to do to reach this goal? How do we make it more specific? How do we make it more timely? How do we measure our progress along the way? How are we making it relevant to our lives, right? And when are the times that we can celebrate the next part of the journey? How can we keep moving towards it? Because a goal is not stationary at all. A goal is moving. Think about a soccer ball. To get a goal in soccer or in hockey, the puck or the ball needs to be moving, right? So it is a constant motion in a forward direction. And if you're on the path and you're like, actually, this goal isn't relevant anymore, or we aren't even interested in this. Now that we got to one of the milestones, we're not actually interested in achieving it. Course correct, right? Don't continue on and dragging people who aren't interested in reaching that goal to reach the goal just to reach it. Your point of having family goals is to go to summer and to teach your children life skills so that when they set goals, they are setting goals that also bring them to summer. So it isn't necessarily about just reaching the goal. It is about reaching the goal with your family in summer. And so if that's not happening, take a pause, check with everyone. Where are we falling short? How did we fall off course? Maybe it's taking too long. Maybe they don't want the thing in the first place. Maybe they're afraid of the dark and they're afraid of bears, and your big camping trip is freaking them out. Right? If your goal is to go camping for 5 nights and they watched a video about a bear attack and they can't sleep because they're so frightened about what's going to happen at night in the campground, you can solve that, right? You can solve that, and the goal can be salvaged. Of course it can. But if it's pushing your family into winter, it's time to unpack that and say, okay, we're going to spring clean for a moment and see what's going on, because we wanted this, so what changed? And that really is an amazing life skill for your children to have. So I hope you have a wonderful time setting magical goals, and I hope they're nice and small and consumable so that you get into the rhythm of setting, testing, working towards it, and achieving it. And that just really builds family confidence. It breathes life into your values. So you're like, this is what we believe. This is our family. You know, this is who we are in the world. And we feel good doing it. And good is good. Anyway, please take time to do your goals, and I will see you in the next module. Bye.